These feelings sleeping in a dark cradle will be reborn. Written by Foreign Angel. Read by Rashi. It's a rather quiet night in Dia's administrative office. She's still sitting at her desk, with solely the faint, yellowish light of a candle keeping her company, as she writes a report on Numazu's recent issues regarding the scarce harvests of wheat and mikans. Lately, many farmers have been struggling to produce sufficient food to keep the market alive, and it's been bothering Dia quite a lot. Nevertheless, she's working to solve the problem. She just wishes the process could be a little faster. Suddenly, she hears a firm knock on the door. "You may come inside," she says, without worrying herself about looking up. "Chief?" Gently shutting the door behind herself, a short girl with sharp, hazel eyes calls out to the town's chief. She stands completely straight, holding what seems to be a folder full of documents between her arms. Her tone sounds somewhat worried, but her neutral expression doesn't allow her true feelings to be shown. Dia looks up from the report she's currently working on, a tired smile present on her face. "Good evening, Kohaku," she kindly greets her secretary. "Good evening. There is a matter I'd like to discuss with you." Straight to the point, I see. Dia slowly nods and gestures for the brown-haired girl to step forward. "What may I assist you with?" she calmly asks, setting her ink and quill to the side. The girl lets out a sigh and places a sheet of paper on Dia's desk, allowing the latter to briefly look at its contents. "There have been constant complaints in the last few days, mostly from the local fishermen. They claim to have witnessed strange, obscure figures roaming in Warshimer Island during the late hours of the night." Dia's aqua eyes narrow as she quickly reads the document, clasping her hands together. "I am already occupied with more important matters than some frivolous story of a sailor." She looks up at Kohaku and raises an eyebrow. "Warshimer Island, you say? They must have been drunk then." Her gaze appears to be melancholic as she sits back against her chair and pinches the bridge of her nose in clear frustration. "Everyone knows there's nothing there. It's deserted. Mothers simply use the Warshimer Island legend as an excuse to warn their young children when they stay outside for too long." The brown-haired girl hums and silently observes Dia from above. "Chief, I believe it's best if you go there personally. The whole matter has been stirring quite the commotion among the citizens." Dia's eyes snap open as her throat suddenly feels dry. "Me? Going to that wicked place? All by myself? I hope you're joking. What benefits would we gain from that?" Dia asks in a strict tone, raising her head higher as she looks straight into the shorter girl's eyes. The atmosphere becomes tense as neither woman decides to make the first move. Then Kohaku heavily sighs. "It would reassure the people a bit. Don't you believe so? As you previously stated, the island doesn't host any living creatures." Dia flinches a bit at the comment, a stinging feeling of uneasiness settling itself in her chest. The truth is that she was once a little girl too, and the mere thought of the frightening stories her mother would narrate to her during the night makes her hands tremble. She won't admit it, but she's scared, and she hates it. She hates being weak and submitting herself to such irrational beliefs. As the town chief, there are some decisions that must be taken in order to ensure a peaceful environment for all. "Kohaku," she speaks up, her voice deep, "publicly announce my departure for Warshimer Island tomorrow at dawn. I'll be leaving once the sun is completely set." A proud grin appears on Kohaku's face, and she politely bows and turns around, stepping outside of Dia's office. Once the door is safely shut, and Dia can remain alone in the intimacy of her own office, she runs her fingers through her brown hair, groaning to herself, "What have I gotten myself into?" The next day, all of Numazu's folks, whether they be children or the elderly, quickly gather around Kohaku and the rest of Dia's representatives. They all seem hesitant as they step on the humid sand of the beach, their whispers reaching Kohaku's ears. Nevertheless, she clears her throat and begins to speak in a loud and distinctive manner, ignoring the few pessimistic comments. "Good evening, and thank you all for coming. The town's chief has come to learn about the matter that is worrying you citizens, and she has decided to personally investigate the strange happenings in Warshimer Island." Upon hearing this, the people of Numazu let out a collective sigh of relief, some even cheering with excitement and whistling. "She will be leaving later today, so please rest easy. We assure you that the problem will be taken care of. That is all. You're free to leave. Good night." It doesn't take long before the dense crowd dissolves, and it leaves behind nothing but footprints on the shore that will soon be washed away by the deep blue waters of the ocean. Kohaku reorganizes her papers and fixes her uniform, waving to her colleagues as she's ready to head home. However, as the fresh, salty breeze of the ocean ruffles her hair, she turns to face the island, intently staring at it, as if it were trying to communicate with her. There's some sort of mysterious aura surrounding it, a particular kind of glow that contrasts against the purples and oranges of the sky. Kohaku looks into the distance and mutters to herself, "Good luck, Dia-san." Dia swiftly buttons her black coat and holds her small leather suitcase tight with her gloved hands. She momentarily directs her gaze higher and observes the candid clouds as they pass, smiling to herself. "Gods, please aid me." Her plea for help gets lost in the sweltering summer air as she starts walking towards her destination. "I simply have to remain calm and handle this like the competent adult I am." Her legs seem to move on their own as she rapidly wanders through the town, the last few lights of the taverns dying down as darkness takes over the place. Numazu is a quite lively city, huh? The people here are doubtlessly tireless. Before Dia can even realize it, her stroll is already over. A transparent fog surrounds the harbor, and she can't help but take off her golden monocle and put it in her pocket, as it is of little use at the moment. Let's get started. She looks around, a bit unsure of how to proceed, when a rather odd sound catches her attention. "Phew?" Now on full alert, Dia remains still and tries to guess where the sound came from. What's happening? A single, emerald green eye shines among the white fog, and soon a tiny, floating creature emerges from the dense cloud. Dia lets her suitcase drop to the ground, startled by the appearance of this whale-like being. "Who are you?" she yells out. "Phew!" The creature looks at her with a certain playfulness in its expression, as it happily waves a triangular flag with purple sparkles drawn in the light blue fabric. "What?" Dia asks no one in particular, her heartbeat accelerating when the ghost circles her and waves the flag right in her face. For some reason, even in this state of fear, she finds its appearance quite adorable. "Choo!" It points at her now dirty suitcase, and then to a cramped, old-looking wooden boat. Should I listen to it? Well, I suppose I don't have much of a choice anyway. Dia loudly gulps and picks her suitcase up, dusting it off and nervously following the creature. She hops on the boat and sits down where she sees the least dirt. Soon, she notices the shore becoming more and more distant. She extends her arms, as if trying to reach for it. Farewell, sweet motherland. On this heated night, Dia doesn't dare to allow a single word to come out of her mouth. Her entire body is shivering, and all the built-up tension is threatening to come out at any second. It's happening. I'm going to Warshimer Island. Gods, I might faint. The creature picks up on her discomfort and improvises a little dance, continuously exclaiming, "Choo! Choo!" as it clumsily moves around. Dia tilts her head and subtly smirks before breaking out in a genuine, resounding laugh. As her giggles die down, she begins to feel less anxious. Maybe this isn't so bad after all. Then the boat comes to a stop. Before her stand many tall trees and other smaller, glowing plants she's never seen in her entire life. She gets off the boat and makes sure to wait for the white creature to show her the way. As she adventures in the forest, the literal spectacle of lights and marine animals, such as jellyfish, sharks, starfish, and schools of fish darting in all directions, sparkles and shines before her eyes. She hurriedly takes out her monocle and wears it, getting a better view of her surroundings. "What a strange place," she whispers under her breath, while in complete awe, attempting to caress an orange jellyfish, only for her hand to go through it. She retracts it and catches up with the tiny ghost, not wanting to get lost here of all places. Are these animals ghosts too? Choo! The creature jumps around and eagerly waves the flag, probably as a way to signal that they have reached the final location. All right, I get it. No need to be so exaggerated. Dia bows respectfully and finally looks up, her eyes widening at the sight of an enormous red castle erected right in the middle of the woods. Whoa! She forgot how to properly breathe for a moment, because this is unexpected. Is there a lost civilization here, perhaps? Dieu? Her floating companion invites her to head over to the building, and Dia can only follow its advice. It's been nothing but helpful to me, I'll admit it. It's gained my trust. She takes a deep breath, noting to herself that the air is quite cold on this island, and holds her suitcase in a strong grip. With each step on the dark green, muddy grass, the brown-haired girl can't help but let anxiety take over her body. Relax, Dia. It's going to be all right. You've faced far more exhausting situations than this one. Two tall, decaying doors mark the entrance to the castle. An unusual force seems to lure her in, as if she were in some sort of trance. Dia involuntarily raises her hand and knocks twice, some dust particles rising and floating all around her. At first, nothing but an ominous silence reigns in the gloomy forest, but soon a high-pitched creak interrupts it. The door gradually opens, simply to reveal an ample but obscure dining room, filled with ghost fish of all kinds. A long, narrow table is placed right in the middle. However, nothing rests atop it. "Pardon the intrusion," Dia says with confidence. "My name is Kurosawa Dia, and I'm the Chief of Staff of Numazu's Administration Bureau. I came here to investigate some strange happenings that have been bothering my people." As she states the reason for her visit, she pauses for a moment, the faint sound of careful footsteps causing her breath to hitch. No sign of a potential response. "Is anyone there? I would like to discuss things peacefully," she insists, speaking at a much higher volume than before. Someone is definitely hiding in there. "Must you speak so loudly?" A soft-spoken, feminine voice asks from the shadows, as it mutters those words quietly and quickly. Dia slightly jumps back, caught off guard, and frantically looks at her surroundings. A woman? What is she even doing here? On Warshimer Island? Maybe she's a castaway. "There's no need to be so scared. Seriously." The voice sounds mostly annoyed, as it hides a hint of sadness in it. Then, a pair of green, mournful eyes scrutinize Dia from above the staircase. "Penelope, come here." The whale ghost races through the room and disappears from her sight. "Forgive me for the suddenness of the situation." Dia places a hand on her chest, as her expression turns stoic. It's always best to show no true emotions in circumstances such as this one. "I'd like to have a word with whoever owns this castle." The stranger's gaze holds a certain coldness to it, as it pierces right through Dia's soul, making her shiver. "I am the owner." From the darkness, a figure emerges. Dia's heartbeat quickens upon seeing a tall woman with a sleek, slim physique and shining blonde hair. Some of the finest purple and blue fabrics one could purchase are tightly wrapped around her body, accentuating her curves and contrasting against her pale skin. The mantle decorated with gold she's wearing renders her appearance more menacing, giving her a sense of power and authority. The only aspect that Dia finds to be cute is the fluffy, white fur shaped like fire flames. The pointy, crooked horns on the blonde's head make Dia wonder, is she even human? A pair of crystal earrings dangle from said horns. As they sway with her every movement, she's very gorgeous, isn't she?
Kurosawa-san.
The horned woman says her name, as if it were an accusation. Dia puffs her chest to remind her that she possesses some form of importance, although this exclusively applies to her town. Then she spots a slug-like ghost by the woman's side, who's strangely hyperactive. Oh, it's pointing at something. Dia doesn't turn her head, but instead directs her stare to a small card with a name written on it. Mari. Mari-san? She scratches her chin in confusion, only to be met with an embarrassed grumble from Mari. Her cheeks are now a light shade of red, and she seems almost ashamed of being called by her real name.
I expect to be addressed formally from now on, Kurosawa-san.
She elegantly walks down the stairs, the ghost slug dutifully behind her.
I am Ohara Mari, a demon lord, a direct descendant of the Demon King's family.
Dia's mouth hangs open, as her brain is subjected to a short circuit. No way this is real. The Demon's King family was processed and assassinated many centuries ago. Each book I've read states so. This is impossible.
You seem surprised.
Mari's high heels produce a resounding click-clack against the marble floor.
Is it because you believe that my family was killed by your oh-so-beloved citizens a long time ago? That's not my case, and I won't allow it to be my case.
She spits the words out like venom, scorchingly hot anger, increasingly rising in her chest. This isn't gonna end well. How do I calm her down? Ohara-san, pardon my rudeness. What happened during that time is outrageous, to say the least. I'm not asking you to forgive my people for what they have done. I simply wish to restore peace. If not between your late family and the townsfolk, at least between you and I. Dia uses a calm and gentle tone, wanting to avoid any possible ways to upset Mari even further. The demon lord gets lost in her thoughts for a few moments. I hope she's considering my idea. Then, a soft hum. Mari closes her eyes and lowers her head.
I'm willing to speak with you, Kurosawa-san. However, I'd prefer doing it in front of a cup of tea.
Ah, still waters run deep. Dia can't contain herself and giggles amusedly, realizing that the blonde's grudge was weak to begin with. 300 years have already gone by. Nothing lasts forever. I'd love to, Ohara-san. The two women are now sitting at a small, circular table, directly facing each other. A few sweet pastries and 2 cups of warm matcha tea lay undisturbed on a rectangular metal tray. Mari's slender fingers grasp the teapot tightly as she fills Dia's cup once again. Thank you, Ohara-san. Dia's rose lips curve into a grateful smile as she places them on the edge of the cup, taking a tiny sip. This tea is delicious. I'm impressed, she compliments, and Mari appears to become flustered.
I'm happy it's to your liking, Kurosawa-san.
Dia nods and observes her distorted reflection in the green liquid, softly sighing to herself. Maybe it's time I mention the strange figures who wander here during the night. Ohara-san, regarding what I said earlier, have you witnessed any unusual creatures or animals? Mari's eyes remain closed as she places her cup on the table. Her lashes are quite long and pretty. She then looks up at Dia and slightly tilts her head, her earrings swaying from side to side.
I can't say I have. It's always been me and the ghosts who inhabit this island.
I see. Dia holds her chin in a pensive manner, the gears in her brain starting to churn. I knew those fishermen were being dramatic. It must have been a trick of the light, or the ghost fish who swim around here. Either way, it's not worth worrying over. I owe you an apology, then. This comment catches Mari's attention. I troubled you for no valid reason, Ohara-san. The brown-haired girl chuckles sheepishly, waving her hand dismissively. I suppose you weren't expecting any visitors, especially at this tardy hour. I'm quite the nuisance, aren't I? She jokes.
You sincerely aren't, Kurosawa-san.
The demon lord suddenly blurts out, slapping one hand over her mouth, as the tips of her ears flush a bright red. Dia bounces back a little, surprised by the unexpected change in the other woman's behavior. Oh, well, that's good to hear. Mari muffles a cough into her fist, mortified to no extent.
Forgive me. That was very impolite. I meant to say that you're welcome to stay here as long as you'd like.
The blonde returns to her usual apathy, keeping herself occupied by stirring her matcha tea with a spoon. Ohara-san, may I ask you a question? Dia relentlessly taps her foot against the floor, her fingers fidgeting with the hem of her coat under the table. Mari ceases her movements and lets out a barely audible hum, glancing at Dia, bothered by the constant tapping. Dia gulps and stops, wondering how she should phrase her question. I wouldn't want to sound rude, but do you feel lonely? Mari's almost dormant eyes snap open as she violently slams a fist on the table, knocking down some cupcakes. You! She struggles to mask the sheer fury behind her tone. I've been confined in this damned castle for over 300 years, surrounded by nothing but emptiness and maddening silence. Dia yelps, taken aback by Mari's outburst of rage. Every day, I would let out desperate cries for help, hoping to be rescued from this never-ending spiral to insanity, but no one ever came! They consider me a vile monster, someone unworthy of attention and care. They completely slaughtered my loved ones without showing any remorse. I watched them die before my eyes. I have nobody left. And you, her voice breaks, dare ask me if I'm lonely? Hot tears are now streaming down her cheeks as she keeps sobbing quietly. Gods, what have I done? Dia awkwardly shifts in her seat, a not-so-subtle sense of guilt, making her feel sick to her stomach. She digs her nails into her palm, biting her lower lip until she can taste blood. I'm a moron. She doesn't deserve any of the horrible things that happened to her. Dia then gets up from her chair and stands near the blonde, who is still crying. This is the least I can do. Dia envelops her in a warm hug, burying her nose in her golden locks. I'm sorry, Mari. I am so sorry. Her arms remain still, locked around her shoulders, as if she were protecting the other woman. Mari doesn't answer. She limits herself to holding on to Dia for support, breaking down in a despairing and heart-wrenching cry. Dia's sleeve is now moist, stained with Mari's repressed hatred. Her grip, however, doesn't loosen up a single inch. She holds the demon lord close to her chest, lovingly stroking her hair. Just let it all out. Let it out, Mari. I'm here for you. Dia nuzzles the top of her head. I'm here.
Thank you, Dia-san. I'm all right now.
Mari timidly wipes her eyes with a cloth and neatly folds it, setting it somewhere on the table. No problem, Mari-san. Dia grins a bit and gives her a thumbs up. The blonde groans in frustration and massages her temples, her lower lip quivering.
I believe it's only fair that I explain myself.
Dia doesn't interrupt her, curious to hear what she has to say. Mari's fingertips brush against her horns.
These horns are what distinguish us demon lords from the common folk. My father used to tell me they were a blessing, useful to do good.
Mari scoffs.
That's not the way I see them. These,
she lowers her arms and rests them on her thighs,
are a curse. I can hear all kinds of sounds coming from the city. Children playing, musicians singing their songs, birds chirping.
Whoa, she has extraordinary hearing capabilities. That must be why she speaks in such a quiet tone.
Sometimes, even terrible ones that I don't want to hear. But there's nothing I can do to stop them. You see? They get in my head, haunting me while I attempt to mind my own business.
Mari finds shelter in her coat, hiding the lower half of her face.
This has been my life for 300 years. Repetitive, dull, and sorrowful.
Mari. The brown-haired girl is at a loss for words. In her aqua-filled eyes is reflected a hint of empathy as she intertwines her fingers with Mari's, her thumb cautiously stroking her palm. Knowing what you went through makes my chest ache. Dia shifts forward, so she's sitting on the very edge of her chair. Please. She gently places her palm on Mari's cheek and caresses it with tenderness. Her touch, ever so delicate. Mari lightly gasps and stares back at her with a startled expression. Allow me to be your friend, Dia offers kindly.
Dia! I can't do that.
The blonde flinches and avoids Dia's concerned gaze.
How can I trust you? Everyone's selfish deep within their corrupted souls. You can never know someone well enough. They're mere strangers at the end of the day.
She pauses to catch her breath.
So am I. You don't truly wish to know what lies under this.
She gestures to herself.
Have faith in me.
Why don't I? Why must I assume that things will go badly and not give you a chance at all? You aren't being reasonable, Mari. This is stupid. I want to be your friend. Don't shut me out like this. Dia loses her patience and bitterly yells at Mari, forcing her to face her by holding her head still with both hands, not realizing that their noses are touching. Mari squeezes her eyes shut.
Don't yell, please. It hurts.
Oh no. Dia's voice gets stuck in her throat as she lets go of her chest quickly rising and lowering. Wait, I didn't mean to scream at you. Gods. The brown-haired girl rises to her feet and exhorts the demon lord to do the same, smiling in satisfaction when she complies. She then launches herself in Mari's direction, almost making her lose her balance, and hugs her waist, her forehead pressed against the blonde's collarbone. I'm sorry. The clock on the wall ticks a couple of times before Mari ultimately hugs Dia back, caressing her back with up and down movements.
It's okay, she whispers. I want to be your friend too.
The taller woman slightly pushes Dia's head away from the crook of her neck, fearing that her accelerated heartbeat might be heard by her. Mari grabs her chin with her thumb and index, tilting it upward so that her face is fully exposed.
Dia,
she mutters.
I don't know how to be a good friend. I've never had the opportunity to learn. I'm short-tempered, hard-headed, distrustful. I'm not perfect.
Dia smirks, cupping Mari's cheek. I never said you were. I'm not perfect either, you know. Her hand sneakily moves to the back of the blonde's neck as she strokes it with fondness. But we can try.
Let's try.
3 months have passed. It's now winter. Numazu is preparing to face this year's frigid closing season. Dia, who's safely locked in her cozy office, observes her people collaborating to fight against tiredness and an oncoming blizzard from above. Suddenly, a petite hand gets placed on her shoulder. Chief? Kohaku catches her attention, chuckling a bit. There's a guest who has requested to see you. Dia can only bite her lip in anticipation. A familiar, fuzzy giddiness warming up her chest. "Let them in." "Oh." Dia turns to face the shorter girl. "And announce that I'll be busy during the whole afternoon." Kohaku rolls her eyes, but grins amusedly. "Yes, Chief." Shyly leaning on the doorframe, with a rather heavy fur coat saving her from imminent hypothermia, stands a demon lord Dia knows all too well. "Mari!" She immediately runs to the blonde and tackles her.
"Hey, Dia!"
She then notices Penelope's tail poking from the edge of the door. "Aw, he wanted to see me too. That's so sweet. Penelope too, I see." Feeling a pair of leather gloves holding her waist, she turns to the blonde once again and raises an eyebrow. It's a matter of seconds before she's easily lifted into the air, with Mari quickly spinning around and laughing genuinely. "Whoa!" The brown-haired girl holds on to Mari, as if it were a matter of life or death, thanking the gods when she feels the firmness of the floor under her feet. Nevertheless, she looks up at her with joy. "You came!"
"Of course I came. It'd be quite rude of me to decline an invitation from the town's chief herself,"
she jokes, a small smile forming on her pink lips. So she does have a sense of humor. Interesting. Dia playfully taps the tip of her nose, opting to then, moderately, pinch her cold cheeks.
"Dia!"
She ignores Mari and keeps having fun with her face, daringly winking at her. She's so adorable. I knew she was soft and cuddly on the inside. "Come, let's have a seat. There's a lot we need to catch up on, Mari sighs in resignation, but follows her regardless. It's the first time she's set foot in Numazu after 3 centuries of keeping to herself in her castle. The blonde is still terrified of encountering anyone who isn't Dia in the streets. Hopefully, she'll open up to the townsfolk with time. But as of now, her only desire is to be by the shorter girl's side. She remembers how she'd endlessly repeat to herself that human interactions were futile and would only bring despair into her miserable life. When one's unyielding beliefs crumble down, everything seems worthy of doubt and diffidence. Mari knows. But standing in this office, with Dia smiling so welcomingly at her, how can she feel any resentment? A woman who once believed she'd spend the rest of eternity suffering and being lonely has now found a place she can truly call home. And she couldn't be any happier.
"Dia?"
Mari calls out to her as the brown-haired girl looks up, her stare puzzled but contented. "Yes, Mari?"
"Thank you."